The early 1980s saw Punjab, a vibrant state in northern India, steadily engulfed by turmoil. A complex mix of religious, political and economic grievances began to fester, creating a fertile ground for unrest. The demand for greater autonomy for Punjab, rooted in the Anandpur Sahib resolution, gained momentum. This resolution sought more powers for the state, including rights over its river waters and the inclusion of Chandigarh as its exclusive capital. However, these demands soon became entangled with more radical calls for a separate Sikh homeland, to be named Khalistan. This period was marked by increasing polarization and a breakdown of dialogue between the central government and various Sikh groups, setting a dangerous course. At the heart of this growing unrest was Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale, a charismatic Sikh preacher. He rapidly gained a large following, particularly among rural youth who felt marginalized and disillusioned. Bhindranwale's fiery rhetoric resonated with those who believed Sikh identity and rights were under threat. He openly criticized the central government and moderate Sikh leaders, advocating for a more assertive and religiously orthodox Sikh stance. While he initially focused on religious revivalism, his pronouncements increasingly took on a political and to many a secessionist tone. His influence grew, and he became a symbol of defiance against the Indian state, a figure both revered and feared. The situation escalated as acts of violence became more frequent. Armed militant groups, inspired by Bhindranwale and the call for Khalistan, began targeting political opponents, government officials, and dissenting voices within the Sikh community itself. The state machinery seemed unable to control the rising tide of lawlessness. Bhindranwale and his heavily armed followers eventually fortified the Golden Temple complex in Amritsar, the holiest shrine of Sikhism. This sanctuary, meant for peace and prayer, transformed into a base of operations for the militants. The government, led by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, viewed this as an unacceptable challenge to its authority and the nation's integrity. The decision to launch a military operation to flush out the militants from the Golden Temple was thus born out of this escalating crisis. It was a choice fraught with immense risk and profound implications. The government felt compelled to act against what it termed as anti-national elements undermining the unity of India. However, the very idea of sending the army into the Sikhs' most sacred space was deeply offensive to many within the community. The stage was set for a confrontation that would leave indelible scars on the Indian psyche, particularly among Sikhs, and alter the course of the nation's history in ways few could have then fully comprehended. The Harmandir Sahib, popularly known as the Golden Temple, is not merely a beautiful edifice. It is the spiritual and historical nucleus of Sikhism. Founded by the fourth Sikh Guru, Guru Ram Das, and completed by the fifth Guru, Guru Arjan Dev, who also installed the Adi Granth, the Holy Scripture. Within it, the temple embodies core Sikh tenets. Its four entrances, welcoming people from all directions and faiths, signify openness and equality. The Sarovar, the sacred pool surrounding the main shrine, is believed to have healing properties. For Sikhs worldwide, the Golden Temple is a place of pilgrimage, a symbol of their faith, identity and heritage, a sanctuary of peace and divine solace. Within the Golden Temple complex stands the Akal Takht, meaning Throne of the Timeless One. Established by the sixth Sikh Guru, Guru Hargobind, it is the highest temporal seat of Sikh authority. Historically, the Akal Takht has been the place from where edicts concerning the Sikh panth or community are issued, and matters of religious and political significance for Sikhs are deliberated. It represents the synthesis of spiritual and temporal power in Sikh tradition, known as Miri Piri. The presence of armed militants within such a revered and historically significant complex, treating it as a command center and arsenal, was therefore seen not just as a challenge to the state, but as a profound desecration by many devout Sikhs, even those sympathetic to some of the broader grievances. The decision by Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale and his followers to use the Golden Temple complex as their base of operations was a strategic, yet deeply controversial move. They believed that the sanctity of the shrine would deter any government action, providing them with a safe haven. The complex, with its intricate network of buildings, including community kitchens known as langar, rest houses for pilgrims or serais, and administrative offices, offered a defensible position. They fortified the Takht and other structures, creating bunkers and firing positions. This transformation of a spiritual center into a militant stronghold presented an unprecedented dilemma for the Indian government and a painful spectacle for the Sikh community. The significance of the Golden Temple cannot be overstated when considering the impact of Operation Bluestar. Any military action within its precincts was bound to be emotionally charged and viewed as an attack on the heart of Sikhism itself. The government was aware of this sensitivity, yet felt it had no other option to address the escalating militancy that it believed threatened national unity. The militants, on their part, perhaps underestimated the government's resolve or overestimated the protection afforded by the temple's sanctity. This fundamental clash over the use and sanctity of the Golden Temple was a critical element in the tragic events that unfolded. The stated primary objective of Operation Bluestar, launched by the Indian Army in early June 1984, was to remove Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale and his heavily armed followers from the Golden Temple complex. The government aimed to neutralize the militant leadership, recover weapons, and restore the sanctity of the holy shrine, which it argued had been compromised by the militants' activities. Officially, the operation was framed as an action against terrorists who were challenging the sovereignty and integrity of India from within its most revered Sikh shrine. The political leadership under Prime Minister Indira Gandhi emphasized the necessity of this drastic measure to curb the growing secessionist movement in Punjab and restore law and order. The execution of Operation Bluestar was a complex and bloody affair. It began on June 1, 1984, with preliminary actions to secure areas around the temple complex and impose a strict curfew in Amritsar. The main assault commenced on the night of June 5th. The Indian Army deployed significant forces, including infantry, commandos, and armoured vehicles. The militants, led by Bhindranwale and former Major General Shabeg Singh, a dismissed army officer with expertise in guerrilla warfare, had heavily fortified the complex. They offered unexpectedly fierce resistance, utilizing the temple's buildings and narrow passages to their advantage. The fighting was intense, particularly around the Takht, which served as the militants' main command post. The army faced considerable challenges. The militants were well entrenched and possessed sophisticated weaponry, including machine guns and anti-tank rockets. The decision to use tanks and heavy artillery within the sacred complex was highly controversial and resulted in significant damage, particularly to the Takht. The army command had reportedly underestimated the level of fortification and the resolve of the militants. There were also concerns about civilian casualties, as many pilgrims were present inside the complex when the operation began, trapped by the sudden escalation. The close-quarters combat in the narrow confines of the temple complex led to high casualties on both sides and among civilians. The operation concluded on June 10, 1984, with the deaths of Bhindranwale and many of his key associates, including Shabeg Singh. The army eventually gained control of the Golden Temple complex, but the cost was enormous. The sight of the damaged Takht and the bullet-riddled structures sent shockwaves across the Sikh world. While the government declared the operation a success in achieving its military objectives, the methods employed and the collateral damage inflicted raised immediate and lasting questions. The grim execution of Operation Bluestar, intended to resolve a crisis, instead sowed the seeds for further tragedy and deepened the alienation of a significant portion of the Sikh community. The official figures released by the Indian government after Operation Bluestar stated that around 83 army personnel were killed and 249 injured. On the militant side, the government claimed approximately 493 deaths, including Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale and his key aides. However, these numbers have always been a subject of intense dispute. Many Sikh organizations and independent observers believe the actual number of casualties, particularly among civilians and pilgrims trapped inside the complex, was significantly higher, possibly running into thousands. The true extent of the loss of life remains shrouded in controversy, contributing to the lasting bitterness and mistrust surrounding the operation. The physical destruction within the Golden Temple complex was extensive and deeply shocking to Sikhs globally. The Takht, the supreme seat of Sikh temporal authority, suffered severe damage from tank fire and shelling. Its historic structure, revered for centuries, was left a battered ruin. The Sikh Reference Library, housing invaluable historical manuscripts, religious texts and artifacts related to Sikh history, was reportedly burned down, resulting in an irretrievable loss of heritage. Bullet marks riddled the Darshani Deori, the main gateway to the Harmandir Sahib, and other sacred buildings. The site of their holiest shrine, desecrated and damaged, inflicted a profound wound on the collective Sikh psyche, a wound that time has struggled to heal. The immediate aftermath of Operation Bluestar was marked by widespread anguish, anger and protests among Sikhs, not just in Punjab, but across India and the diaspora. Many felt that the sanctity of their most sacred place had been violated in the most brutal manner. The use of overwhelming military force, including tanks within the temple precincts, was seen as an unforgivable act of sacrilege. There were reports of mutinies by Sikh soldiers in various parts of India, deeply disturbed by the events in Amritsar. The operation, intended to curb militancy, ironically fueled further alienation and provided a potent rallying cry for extremist elements, deepening the chasm between the Sikh community and the Indian state. The government's handling of information during and after the operation also contributed to the sense of grievance. A complete media blackout was imposed in Punjab, preventing independent reporting and allowing rumours and misinformation to flourish. This lack of transparency fueled suspicion and anger. For many Sikhs, Operation Bluestar was not merely a military action against a few militants, but an assault on their faith, their identity, and their dignity. The bitter toll of casualties, the destruction of sacred structures, and the widespread anguish it caused would cast a long, dark shadow over Indian politics and society for decades to come, shaping future events in tragic ways. Section 5. Retribution's shadow, the assassination of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. On the morning of October 31st, 1984, just a few months after Operation Bluestar, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was assassinated at her official residence in New Delhi. The perpetrators were two of her own Sikh bodyguards, Bent Singh and Satwant Singh. As she walked from her residence to her office for a scheduled interview, they opened fire on her with their service weapons at close range. The assassination sent shockwaves across India and the world, plunging the nation into a period of profound crisis and grief. Indira Gandhi, a dominant figure in Indian politics for nearly 2 decades, was no more, her life cut short in an act of violent retribution. The assassins made no attempt to escape and were quickly apprehended. Bent Singh was killed by other guards shortly after the attack, while Satwant Singh was wounded and arrested. During subsequent investigations and trials, it became unequivocally clear that their motive was revenge for Operation Bluestar. They, like many other Sikhs, viewed the military action in the Golden Temple as a desecration of their holiest shrine and an unforgivable affront to their faith. The deeply personal sense of betrayal and religious anger fueled their decision to take the Prime Minister's life, whom they held directly responsible for ordering the operation. The link between Operation Bluestar and Indira Gandhi's assassination was direct and undeniable. The storming of the Golden Temple had caused immense outrage and a feeling of deep hurt within the Sikh community. While the government had intelligence warnings about potential threats to the Prime Minister's life from Sikh extremists following the operation, and suggestions were made to remove Sikh personnel from her security detail, Indira Gandhi herself reportedly rejected this idea. She believed it would fuel communal divisions and demonstrate a lack of trust in Sikhs, which she was keen to avoid. This decision, however noble in intent, ultimately proved fatal. The assassination immediately created a power vacuum at the highest level of Indian governance. Indira Gandhi's son, Rajiv Gandhi, who was not deeply involved in politics at the time, was swiftly sworn in as the new Prime Minister later that day. The nation was in a state of shock and mourning, but this grief soon gave way to a horrific wave of violence targeted against the Sikh community. The shadow of retribution that fell upon Indira Gandhi on that fateful October morning would tragically extend to engulf thousands of innocent Sikhs in the days that followed, marking another dark chapter in India's contemporary history. Section 6. Days of Darkness. The 1984 anti-Sikh riots unleashed. The assassination of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi on October 31, 1984, acted as an immediate and horrific trigger for widespread violence against the Sikh community across India, particularly in the capital city of Delhi. Within hours of the news of her death spreading, mobs began to gather, fueled by grief, anger, and, tragically, by incitement from certain political elements. What began as sporadic incidents of harassment quickly escalated into organized and brutal pogroms targeting Sikh individuals, their homes, businesses, and places of worship. These dark days, lasting for several days into early November, remain one of the most shameful episodes in independent India's history. The scale and nature of the violence were terrifying. In Delhi, the worst affected city, mobs armed with iron rods, knives, and flammable materials roamed the streets, systematically identifying and attacking Sikhs. Men were dragged from their homes, beaten and often burned alive. Sikh women were subjected to horrific sexual violence. Gurdwaras, Sikh temples, were desecrated and set ablaze. Sikh-owned shops, factories, and vehicles were looted and destroyed. The attacks were not random outbursts of public anger. They displayed a chilling degree of organization, with attackers often possessing voter lists or other means to identify Sikh households and establishments with precision. Officially, the government reported that nearly 3,000 Sikhs were killed during these riots, primarily in Delhi, though many human rights organizations and Sikh groups placed the figure much higher. Beyond the tragic loss of life, countless families were displaced, livelihoods were destroyed, and an entire community was left traumatized and feeling betrayed by the state that was supposed to protect them. The response of the law enforcement agencies during these days of carnage was widely criticized as being inadequate, delayed, and in some instances complicit. Police personnel were often seen as passive bystanders or even actively aiding the rioters, further emboldening the perpetrators. The anti-Sikh riots of 1984 left an indelible scar on the Sikh community and on the secular fabric of India. The failure of the state to prevent the violence or to bring the main instigators to justice swiftly eroded faith in the system. Allegations of involvement and complicity reached high levels of the then-ruling Congress Party, though definitive proof in courts remained elusive for many key figures. These days of darkness were not just a reaction to an assassination. They were a calculated and brutal assault on a minority community, the repercussions of which continue to echo through the corridors of Indian justice and politics to this very day. Section 7. An enduring path, the decades-long quest for justice and accountability. The path to justice for the victims and survivors of the 1984 anti-Sikh riots has been an arduous and frustrating journey spanning over 4 decades. Numerous commissions of inquiry were established by successive governments to investigate the violence, identify the perpetrators, and recommend action. These included the Marwa Commission, the Misra Commission, the Nanavati Commission, and several smaller committees. While these bodies meticulously documented the horrific extent of the atrocities and often pointed towards organized efforts and the complicity of certain political figures and police officials, their recommendations frequently faced slow or incomplete implementation, leading to widespread disillusionment. The legal proceedings against those accused of participating in or orchestrating the riots have been painstakingly slow and largely unsatisfactory for the victims. Many high-profile cases dragged on for years, often resulting in acquittals due to lack of evidence, witness intimidation, or investigative lapses. While there have been a few convictions over the decades, particularly in recent years as some cold cases were reopened, many of the main alleged organizers and instigators of the violence have evaded legal accountability. This perceived impunity has been a constant source of pain and anger for the Sikh community, who feel that the Indian state failed in its fundamental duty to deliver justice. In terms of political accountability, the Congress Party, which was in power at the center during 1984, has faced persistent criticism. Over the years, prominent Congress leaders, including former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and Sonia Gandhi, have expressed regret and offered apologies for the events of 1984. More recently, as of September 2024, former Punjab Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Chani reiterated that the Congress Party has apologized multiple times for both Operation Bluestar and the anti-Sikh riots. However, for many victims and activists, these apologies, while acknowledged, do not substitute for concrete legal justice against all perpetrators. The quest for accountability extends beyond a single political party. For instance, Chani also called for the BJP to be transparent about its alleged role in the 1984 events, referencing claims that BJP leader L.K. Advani had purportedly admitted to pressuring the Indira Gandhi government to take military action at the Golden Temple. Such political discourse highlights the complex web of accusations and the continued use of the 1984 events in contemporary political debates. As of November 2024, organizations like Dal Khalsa continue to mark anniversaries of the riots by organizing seminars emphasizing the lack of justice, underscoring that the demand for full accountability remains a potent issue for the Sikh community. Section 8. Echoes of conflict, propaganda, politics and lingering accusations. The tragic events of 1984, particularly Operation Bluestar, have unfortunately become fodder for propaganda efforts aimed at stoking discontent within the Sikh community. Reports from as recently as November 2024 indicate that authorities in Pakistan, specifically the Pakistan Rangers and Inter-Services Intelligence (ISI), have allegedly been screening videos of Operation Bluestar to Sikh pilgrims visiting Gurdwara Darbar Sahib via the Kartarpur corridor. These videos reportedly portray the operation in a highly negative light, with the apparent aim of inciting anger towards the Indian government and promoting separatist sentiments, especially among younger pilgrims. This tactic seeks to exploit historical grievances for contemporary geopolitical agendas. According to these reports, the screenings of such provocative material often resume or intensify around significant Sikh religious occasions, such as the Prakash Purab of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, when a large number of pilgrims visit Gurdwaras in Pakistan. Some pilgrims who have visited have confirmed being shown these videos and subtly encouraged to seek retribution against India, sometimes with veiled assurances of Pakistani support. Such actions are viewed by Indian authorities as a deliberate attempt to reignite Khalistani sentiments and destabilize Punjab. In response, Indian security forces like the Border Security Force, BSF, have reportedly undertaken countermeasures, such as showing films highlighting Indian bravery and patriotic messages to pilgrims to counter this narrative. The political discourse within India also continues to be shaped by the shadows of 1984. For example, in September 2024, when Congress leader Rahul Gandhi raised concerns about the challenges faced by Sikhs and other minorities in India, questioning their freedom to practice religion, the BJP quickly countered his remarks by invoking the 1984 anti-Sikh riots, which occurred under a Congress government. This illustrates how these historical events are weaponized in contemporary political battles, often deflecting from current issues. Congress leaders in turn have accused the BJP of doublespeak, failing to address minority concerns adequately, and even maligning protesting farmers, many of whom are Sikh, by labeling them as Khalistanis. Further complicating the political landscape are specific incidents that touch upon Sikh religious sensitivities. For instance, Congress leader Pratap Singh Bajwa highlighted an incident in September 2024 where farm leaders were allegedly barred from boarding a flight because they were carrying their kirpans, an article of faith for Sikhs. He termed this an unprecedented action, underscoring the ongoing anxieties within the community regarding the protection of their religious practices. These incidents, whether large-scale propaganda efforts or smaller perceived slights, demonstrate that the echoes of 1984 continue to resonate, influencing perceptions, political strategies, and the delicate balance of communal harmony in India. Section 9. A Nation's Scars Operation Bluestar's Legacy in Contemporary India. Operation Bluestar and the subsequent assassination of Indira Gandhi and the horrific anti-Sikh riots of 1984 have left deep and enduring scars on the Sikh community and the broader Indian nation. For many Sikhs, these events represent a profound betrayal by the state, a period when their holiest shrine was desecrated and their lives and dignity were violated. The emotional trauma, the sense of injustice, and the feeling of alienation have been passed down through generations. While Punjab has largely moved on from the violent militancy of that era, the memory of 1984 continues to be a painful touchstone for Sikh identity and its relationship with the Indian mainstream. The long-term impact on Indian politics has been significant. These events brought the complexities of managing religious sensitivities and regional aspirations to the forefront of national discourse. They highlighted the dangers of allowing political grievances to fester and escalate into violent conflict. The handling of the Punjab crisis and its aftermath has been a subject of continuous debate and scrutiny, influencing how subsequent governments have approached issues of internal security, minority rights, and state-center relations. The call for justice for the 1984 riot victims remains a recurring political issue, often resurfacing during elections or significant anniversaries, reminding the nation of its unhealed wounds. Reflecting on these events in contemporary India underscores the critical importance of understanding history in all its complexity. It necessitates acknowledging the grievances that led to the crisis, the difficult choices faced by the government, the tragic consequences of those choices, and the long struggle for justice and reconciliation. For the Sikh community, it involves grappling with a painful past while forging a future within India. For the nation as a whole, it means learning lessons about protecting minority rights, ensuring accountability for state actions, and strengthening the secular and democratic fabric that binds diverse communities together. The events of 1984 serve as a somber reminder of how quickly things can unravel when dialogue fails and violence takes root. Ultimately, the significance of Operation Bluestar and its aftermath lies not just in the historical facts, but in the enduring human stories of loss, resilience, and the quest for healing. Understanding this period requires empathy, a commitment to truth, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable realities. Only through such an understanding can India hope to truly address the legacies of 1984, foster genuine reconciliation, and work towards ensuring that such tragic chapters are never repeated. The path forward involves strengthening institutions that uphold justice, promoting inter-community dialogue, and reaffirming the core values of a pluralistic and inclusive society. Today, on June 5, 2025, these reflections remain as pertinent as ever. Like and subscribe for more valuable content and interesting videos. Stay tuned for more.